Trey Hendrickson is here in Cincinnati, wearing a white hat, beginning the hold-in. Let's break it down.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Bengals fans, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Jake Liscow. He's James Rapien, and we're your hosts of Locked On Bengals, covering your Bengals here on YouTube, everywhere you get your podcast. Been doing it since 2016. A lot to get to today. Big day at training camp for the Cincinnati Bengals on Wednesday. Trey Hendrickson, as reported on Tuesday night, does not participate as expected, but he's here in Cincinnati. He spoke with the media after practice. There's still work to do to get that contract done. Joe Burrow also spoke to the media after Wednesday's practice, and I found him to be particularly insightful and confident in the way things are going so far. We'll talk about what Joe Burrow had to say, and then we'll get to all of our practice notes, and that includes a couple of injuries that we're going to keep an eye on, a couple of debuts, and, well, a lot going on in these practices as things are ramping up with pads on. Let's start, though, with Trey Hendrickson after a reminder on Saturday at 8:30. James and I will be over at the Holy Grail after the evening practice. If you want to come hang out, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the graphic. Training camp meetup, Holy Grail, August 2nd, 8:30 p.m. Come hang out with us. Get a couple drinks, get some food, whatever it is that you'd like to do. We'll be there. You can talk some Bengals with us, and we're excited for that. But today, as we talk about the Bengals, James, we're going to start with Trey Hendrickson.
You think Trey's going to show up? Trey, you're obviously invited. I would love for you to come. Saturday night would be great. I'm sure fans would love for you to come as well.
Absolutely.
In fact, it would be there'd be people hanging out wanting to chat with us, and then they see Trey, and then everyone leaves, and then we would be able to do whatever we would do if you guys didn't show up. So we really want you to show up. That being said, Trey Hendrickson did show up, ended his holdout. He's officially a hold-in. And it's, on the surface, you could say, oh, well, it's as simple as $50,000 per day is a lot of money, and he's going to get fined $250,000 for those 5 practices he missed. I don't think it was necessarily that. I think that this is the next card. This is the next step that the Hendrickson camp has to play. He mentioned multiple times in the media session, hey, things haven't really changed. Because I think when people saw that he was reporting for camp, it was like, oh, they're close. They're close. I'm not sure how close they are. I don't think that there's a canyon in between them, but I do think that there's clear-cut disagreement on where the Bengals are versus where Trey is hoping to be and expects to be. Time will tell when that gets done, if that gets done. But I'll say this. It's good to have Trey in the building. It's good to have Trey talking to Shamar Stewart. I'm sure people have seen clips of that already, helping Shamar Stewart, having him in the building around the guys. That does matter. And so just really, really high level, it's good to have 91 around. And then when you get to the nuts and bolts of it, I do think easier might not be the right word, but it does set the table to get a deal done a little better with him here versus him away. Even if he's not the one doing the negotiating, he can say, hey, remember me? I'm the guy that needs to be paid before week 1.
I think that's a hope from Trey Hendrickson as he shows up. It was reported as a gesture of goodwill, something that he's hoping shows that, hey, I'm serious about this. I want to be a good teammate. I don't want to be a distraction. I also don't want to get fined. I think that's part of it. It's probably not the entire thing, but I do think those fines add up. You do this for another few weeks, you're at $1 million pretty quick. So the fines do add up after some time. But I did find Trey's remarks to be
it's that Liscow money.
Interesting. Yeah, right. I wish. I did find Trey's remarks to be interesting, talking about the mutual desire. This is what stood out to me the most. And I think this is also him posturing a little bit, but there's a mutual desire to get a deal done, and saying that he thinks there's an understanding from him and the ownership that he's not going to play this year on his deal. Now, he also wants security, and he's been very consistent in articulating the need for quote unquote security, i.e. guaranteed money. And that's what's been reported. That's what Trey's been saying the whole time. And so that remains, maybe it's not a canyon, but there is some sort of crack in the earth between the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson. Now, how big the crack is, that's up to the person you ask, probably. But mutual desire to get a deal done, a need for security. Trey is here, and that he's here, I think, means good things if you were thinking about his availability for the beginning of the season. I think. What do you think?
Well, a couple things. One, find out Saturday how big the crack is. No. Two, that's a fun slogan to promote everything. Two, I don't know. Like, I do wonder, like, if you're Trey, I think there was a part, put it like this, because this is now similar to the Jamar Chase situation last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a part of Jamar Chase last year, early in the season, week 1, week 2, when he was clearly distracted, and I think was really struggling with playing and whether or not he should play and if he should push the envelope a bit more. And ultimately he didn't, and I think that distracted him and impacted his play on the field. Would Trey be willing to miss games? I don't know. I think in his mind, he's hoping it never has to come to that he doesn't have to cross that bridge.
Absolutely.
That he's coming here. He's saying, all right, well, let's figure this out. And by the way, I think they do.
Well, that's what I'm saying though, too, right? Like, that he's here means, to me, it's suggestive that he is highly incentivized to get something done that leads to him being on the field for week 1, one way or another.
Sure. And so it's interesting, like, how close are they? Like the Schefter thing, and we kind of talked about that yesterday. Like the 6 to 10 million, people kind of ran with that, and he was throwing out numbers. I don't know how true that is, but let's just say it is. You could throw another 6 million in that signing bonus. You don't have to guarantee that. Like, like there are ways. So I don't know if it's that close.
I think that's probably the way it eventually goes, is toward the signing bonus. They'll probably do something with year 2, but that's how they did it with Orlando Brown, right? Orlando Brown needed a number of guaranteed dollars. They did it with the biggest signing bonus they've ever done at the time.
31 million?
I thought it was 36.
30. It might have been 36. It was a lot. It's a lot of cash.
Many millions.
It's a lot of cash. Orlando, feel free to send me $1 anytime. I think that might be how this goes. And with Trey reporting and him maintaining that, not much has changed on the contract front. It doesn't feel like it's in the red zone. I told our Locked On Bengals insiders, you can join by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBengals, that I remembered it this time.
Yeah, nailed it.
I never remember it. I'm always like, Jake, what is it? Joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBengals. I told them it doesn't feel like it's in the red zone yet. And that doesn't mean it's not on the right side of the 50, but it still doesn't feel like it's in the red zone yet. And I still get that feeling that it's not there. Doesn't mean it can't get there quickly, especially with Joe Burrow at quarterback.
Explosive plays. Andre Yosvash in the seam all day.
Huge
all day on Wednesday.
Day for Andre. And so ultimately, though, for Trey, we've spent all offseason talking about Trey Hendrickson. I'm not shocked that he showed up. I'm not shocked that he wants to get a deal done. I'm not shocked that he said what he said and clearly made it from the jump. Hey, I'm not talking for 20 plus minutes. He talked for 8 minutes on Wednesday. So Trey's aware of everything that's been said about him all off season long. He wants everyone to know, hey, I'm a team guy. I understand it. I want to help Shamar. I want to help Miles. I want to help these guys, but I also want long-term security. And he said security a few times, and that's why the signing bonus part of it. It doesn't need to be. When I think of security in that word, well, upfront money is just as good as guaranteed money.
You got that money.
You get that money. And security comes how? When you get money. So hopefully they can find common ground over the next few weeks. I would personally think August 22nd. I'm going to pick a date. I think like in that range, like a month into camp. By then, you want something done so he can get out there on the practice field for a few weeks.
Yeah. Give me the after. If you're giving me a before and after, over, under kind of line on that.
I agree, but I'm just saying like in an ideal world.
Ideal world, yes.
Ideal world.
Joe Burrow talked about this today as well, and kind of how he thinks this is a relatively common thing around the league, how it's something that often gets done going into week 1. And that's how it was for him.
Yeah.
That's his lived experience. And wouldn't be shocking if it's similar. That's where I keep coming back to is it wouldn't be shocking if it's similar.
I hate it because it's such a distraction. I've said it so many times on the pod. Obviously you have Joe He literally signs his contract, hops on the plane to Cleveland. They get the rear ends kicked in. Part of that was the calf. I get it, but you can't tell me it wasn't a distraction. And then last year with Jamar, it would just be nice, Jake.
Would be.
And you mentioned Joe. We're going to talk about Joe, what Joe had to say on Wednesday, coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. It's time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. By the way, I talk a lot of trash to Jake. Jake would, without a doubt, whoop me in golf. I don't even know if he's good at golf, but I stink at golf. I'm the world's worst golfer.
Do you have a Charles Barkley swing?
Oh, Charles laughs at my swing. I mean, it's that bad. So just so you know, but you know what? If I am jumping on the golf course, I absolutely need a 5 Hour Energy. Jake is living off of 5 Hour Energies right now with that training camp grind. He's on that West Coast time zone. He's got to wake up early for morning practice. And whether it's golf, whether it's Bengals training camp, it's all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the beverage cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONGolf to get 20% off your order. This offer is valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5 Hour Energy shots today. All right, Jake, let's get to Joe Burrow. You mentioned that you liked his optimism in his thoughts on just how camp was going in general. Let's start with Joe himself, because one of the themes that we've discussed and talked about, I think every day since you've been here, but probably every day on the pod since camp started, was Joe, how well he's throwing it. And he agrees. He said it's the best he's thrown the ball in quite some time.
Yeah. And he was asked, why do you feel that way? And he said, you've been here. You've seen it. Feeling very good about the way he's throwing the football right now. And also, if you were at training camp on Wednesday, then you've already seen this. Maybe you've seen it because you're active on social media, but he threw an interception today. First interception he's thrown
Josh Newton
in training camp. Josh Newton jumps up. It's a little bit of a high ball intended for T. Higgins and quite a bit of traffic, a little glance route, a deeper slant route in the end zone in a red zone period, 7-on-7 period. I think a couple plays later, it was Barrett Carter, 49, almost had an interception in that, think user lurk if in Madden, the underneath linebacker jumping up and he deflects the pass, gets both hands on it. But Joe's explaining his mentality in 7-on-7 versus 11-on-11 and talking about, in 7-on-7 this year, I'm taking more risks. I'm pushing the ball a little bit harder, pushing the envelope a little bit farther. Where in 11-on-11 this year, he's treating it as if it's a game situation. And you look at the results in 7-on-7 versus 11-on-11 for the Bengals today, and they did move the ball work finally in 11-on-11. I'm getting ahead of myself here talking about a lot of the practice takeaways, but Joe was moving the ball well in 11-on-11. Big day for Yoshi. We'll circle back to that one. But in the 7-on-7, he's talking about his mentality, right? And so if you saw those mistakes I put in quotes, the interception, the near interception, the pass breakups in the red zone in that 7-on-7 period, he's explaining that mentality, that he's treating that a little bit differently and testing his limits in that versus the 11-on-11s where he's looked really good throughout. And, there's been some kind of questions, I think, in the red zone more than anything. But overall, to me, I don't know about you, I thought this was a particularly insightful press conference from Joe Burrow, the way he's talking about guys on the defensive side of the ball, on the offensive side of the ball, the guys he's talking about in terms of the skill players, and a lot of confidence in that skill room, including the young guys and new guys who don't have all the experience in the system that a lot of the continuity that we've talked about throughout the offseason do have in the system. So top to bottom, I thought Joe was expressing a lot of optimism and confidence in the team, and you would expect him to do that. But at the same time, I feel like he was backing it up and talking about specifics.
He was, and I agree with you. I think you could look at a bunch of different topics that he hit on. The defensive line.
A whole page of notes.
The secondary, you can't read that.
It's pretty bad handwriting.
Yeah. it was hard to see on camera, but yeah, it actually is 7-on-7 throwing it to push boundary. Okay, I can read it a little bit, but boy, woo, spoiler, I can read, ladies and gentlemen.
No.
Yeah, that's true. But when he was talking about like wide receivers, he was like, "Oh, this is the best room we've had," and mentions Isaiah Williams and goes on and discusses. He said Maine, as in Jermaine Burton, who had a really nice back shoulder catch from Joe Burrow with DJ Turner in coverage. Like there are multiple guys that have stepped up, and he mentioned those guys after being asked about Andre, and suddenly all these guys he's rattling off and like, oh man, this guy's impressing me, and this guy, and that is a really, really good sign, because it would not shock me if a guy like Isaiah Williams was lost in this offense. If Jermaine Burton didn't take the step that it feels like at this point he has taken. That doesn't mean he's all the way there yet, but it does feel like he understands where to go. Caught a touchdown pass from Jake Browning today as well. And so whether it's the receivers that he was talking about, or whether it's the defensive front where he says, TJ Slayton's going to be awesome for us, man. And he goes on and on about him. And then he talks about the ends. And then he goes to the secondary and he loves the energy they're playing with and the fight and how they know their coverages and they know the scheme and they know all of these things he's rattling off. And so I think he feels like they're in a really good spot, that they're having a productive camp. And the reason I go back to, and it's a theme, everydayers are going to get sick of me saying it, but there has been really good competition.
Yeah,
the defense has had their wins. Jamar plays well, makes a play, or team makes a play, or Joe makes a great throw, and great. Mike Gesicki over the middle, or Andre, who Jake keeps mentioning because Andre had a big day. Those things happen, and then the defense responds and makes a play on their own. And I do think that that's something I'm really taking note of, because every single practice that seems and has seemed to be the case for this defense.
Yeah, and we'll get back to the specifics of this practice. Joe's talking about this practice a little bit as well. And when he's talking about the guys that are stepping up on offense, he's like, yeah, everyone knows I'm going to throw the ball to 5 and 1. Teams are getting to the point where they're sometimes going to be able to take those guys away. And then he goes down and names pretty much everybody in the skill group that he's thrown to. Andre, you mentioned Mike Gesicki, you mentioned Jermaine, you mentioned Chuck, Charlie Jones, who had a number of plays on Wednesday. He mentioned Isaiah Williams. You mentioned, he also mentioned Mitch, as in Mitchell Tinsley. It took me a second to figure out which Mitch it was.
I didn't know who he said. Like I in real time, I'm glad you mentioned him. So he wears 82, just get you guys ready for the preseason game. And you kind of look at him, and I don't mean like stylistically. I just mean like his frame and his build. You're like, is Marvin Jones out there? I don't mean stylistically. I'm not saying he's Marvin. That's not what I'm saying. But he's the same number, and it's really funny seeing him out there. So that's been a training camp, one of my many training camp jokes. So there's Marvin Jones again. But he has made a few plays, and it is noteworthy that Joe mentioned him.
James is a very funny person, if you can't tell. He also specifically talked about that, including those young guys, there aren't very many mental errors from that room. He also talked about with the DBs, not many mental errors. And he called that rare with the young guys and praised them for their study habits and feeling great. Emphasize the word great in my notes here with where that room is, talking about the receivers. And in addition to that, he was asked as a follow-up, hey, what about Yoshi? The initial question was about Andre Yosvash, and said that the biggest difference for Yosvash this camp has been that when he came into the league as a track guy, he didn't necessarily, and he was asked by Jeff Hobson as well, so he reiterated this answer later in the presser, but didn't necessarily have all that experience playing the ball in the air. And he's put a lot of work in and gotten to the point where Joe is really pleased with his ability to win in contested catch situations, and talked about building that skill set and also building trust. And if you show that you can do that in practices, that means Joe is going to give you those opportunities in games. And Joe was talking about that as part of the presser. So I think that Joe's confidence level in Andre Yosvash is increasing and has continued to steadily increase since Andre was a rookie, but has certainly grown, it sounds like, based on his performance in camp so far this year. And like I said, the confidence and the lack of mental errors, talking about DBs understanding their leverages, where they have help, where they don't have help, talking up Miles, Osai, and really emphasizing TJ Slayton. You said that earlier, but a lot of emphasis. I think he's pretty impressed with TJ Slayton so far. He was also asked about his protection. He's pretty pleased with the protection he's getting so far. Praised Dylan Fairchild and his understanding of the cadence so far and understanding not making false starts based on the snap count. He said he had one earlier in camp, but pretty pleased with his protection so far. I think that it'll be interesting to see how that translates to game situations, and that's what we'll be watching when the preseason rolls around. We'll finish up with some practice takeaways. We have some injuries that we're keeping eyes on, let's say. Not sure the severity yet, but we'll finish the show there coming up next.
Ever wish managing your money felt easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Maybe Trey is going to get Monarch Money when he gets paid. Trey's payday, he gets Monarch Money, and he can have his own personal CFO. You can too. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. All right, let's get to some training camp practice takeaways. And Jake, you've mentioned him a bunch, so we might as well just get to it. Andre Yosvash obviously had a really big day. Nice one-handed grab up the seam that kind of capped it off, where he just gets that one arm out there, makes the play. But number 80 coming up big during team drills multiple times today.
Time and time again, contested catch situations, one-hander you talked about. I have numerous pluses by his name today. In addition to that, saw some pluses for number 1, as you would expect, some pluses for number 5, as you would expect. But that 7-on-7 period really did stand out for a number of DBs making plays.
Yep.
In coverage on Jamar Chase, in coverage on T. Higgins. The interception came on a ball thrown in T. Higgins' direction. Jordan Battle making a nice play, breaking up a pass intended for Jamar Chase in the back pylon. Cam Taylor-Britt at the front pylon making a nice play on the ball there as well. So 27, 28, 29, I got pluses next to all their names. I mentioned the Barrett Carter near interception as well in that 7-on-7 work. Barrett Carter working in there against Joe Burrow too. So a number of guys making plays, particularly in that 7-on-7 period. But man, did Andre make plays throughout this practice. It was really up and down throughout the game. Seam ball really stood out, the one-handed catch toward the end of things.
Yeah, and so this is an example where it's like, all right, well, Andre stood out, but then Jordan Battle made a play, and Cam Taylor-Britt made a play, and Josh Newton made a play, and also lost his Gatorade as well. Had another incident where he's thrown up at one point. Yeah. But hey, he's still making plays, and I think they'll take that. Yeah, he returned to practice for sure. A couple injury notes while I'm thinking about it. Lucas Patrick returned, didn't go through team drills, but return was on the field, so that's a good sign. Matt Lee did partake in team drills at center, and Seth McLaughlin is officially a Bengal. He went through his first practice wearing number 68. He was cleared for practice, and they waived or released Zach Moss prior to practice with that neck injury that continues to really plague him and get in the way of his NFL career.
As Trey is coming off the did not report list, the Bengals remain at 90 men on the roster. The other injury notes to talk about to catch up on here, Amarius Mims and Cam Taylor-Britt both did not finish practice. Not sure about the severity there for either of those guys. Amarius was still on the field. Cam Taylor-Britt was getting stretched out on the sideline at some point during practice, didn't return afterward. Maybe had a little bit of a limp as he was getting up after getting stretched out there. So not sure what exactly, I mean, that could just be a bad cramp, right? Sometimes, you get a bad Charlie horse, you're still limping afterwards, but don't know the severity of either of those injuries at this point in time. Something that we're going to have to watch, though. Amarius not able to finish the team session there. And in his stead were Jalen Rivers and Devin Cochran both rotating in at right tackle.
Yeah, which is noteworthy because we've talked a lot about Rivers, haven't talked a lot about Cochran. Cochran is in that mix. Amarius was in the locker room at his locker, looked fine. I fist bumped him. So I don't think it's anything, but you're right. I mean, he missed multiple team periods, but there's that. I'm trying to think if there's any other notes. You have anything else in there?
Not on injuries. Another back and forth day, right? Wins for the defense, as we mentioned in the 7-on-7 period. I thought the move the ball period went very much in the number one's direction on offense. The ones moved the ball very well during that period, including, I think, a Chase Brown run. I think that's all I got for overall practice notes here today.
All right, so a couple more things. Jermaine Burton caught a touchdown from Jake Browning. in the back of the end zone. Tanner McLaughlin caught a touchdown as well, his first touchdown grab. I noticed him a few times today. In one-on-ones, it was weird. We split up during one-on-ones. Demetrius Knight there were officials today, would have gotten called for pass interference on Drew Sample. Sample made the catch anyway. And then Knight held up pretty well against Chase Brown in space during those one-on-ones on his next rep. So a few notes there when it comes to one-on-one. Certainly important for Demetrius Knight as he gets acclimated to life in the NFL.
One of the more comical moments today, now that you mentioned Demetrius Knight, that I remember, he was very frustrated after giving up a catch when he ended up in coverage on Jamar Chase.
Oh, yeah. Slammed his hands on the ground.
That's going to happen. You're a linebacker trying to cover Jamar Chase, but it was nice to see the fire there in response to the Jamar Chase catch in his coverage. I also had a touchdown from Mike Gesicki in the red zone, which is notable only because we've talked about that being a part of his game that does need to expand this year. We would like to see him find a little bit more success in the red zone. So it's training camp, who really cares about it at this point, right? But they did find a way to get him the ball in a red zone drill there as well for a touchdown.
Another day. We will certainly be back at it. We'll see you Saturday. By the way, we're going to remind you each and every show leading to Saturday. We'll see you Saturday at Holy Grail. And Jake still in town, which means we get to do these together.
Yeah. Until next time, that's going to do it for this episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. Thanks for listening. Hoo day, and have a good one.